Hello, I'm George Abernathy, the proud president of FreightWaves. Welcome to the Small Fleet and Owner Operator Summit, another of the FreightWaves series of virtual summits that really do a great job of looking at and being able to present information around our extraordinarily diverse market. I'm really pleased today. Our keynote fireside chat today is with Rob Estes. Rob's the president of Estes Express Lines. I know you see a lot of that Estes equipment out there and have for a long time. It's going to be wonderful to hear the Estes story. Rob, thanks for doing this with us today.
George, it's my pleasure. I tell people that when I enjoy seeing my grandkids and playing with my grandkids and enjoy talking trucking. So this is one of my three favorite things. So
you're in the right place, because a lot of the folks watching FreightWaves TV that watch FreightWaves TV and a lot of us who are participating in it we're trucking nerds, and in the world of transportation, the Estes name, and let's actually start there. As we think about small fleets, amazing to think about with the billions of dollars that Estes is doing in transportation, that at one point in time Estes was a small fleet. Talk a little bit, give a little bit of background if you could, or tell a bit of the Estes story, how that evolution has occurred.
George, I'd love to tell the Estes story. My granddad, 90 years ago, with one used Chevrolet truck, started hauling freight. And this was in 1931, so pre-regulation. So there were no rates, no ICC, Interstate Commerce Commission governing. So I am not exactly sure how he determined rates, but I'm pretty sure it was the wild, wild west, and similar to what an owner-operator looks at today. So again, my granddad was a one-truck operator. He had 6 children, was a farmer. This was kind of the height of the Depression, so he needed some extra money for that large family. And my dad was 10, my uncle was 8, so he had good workers on the farm, and so he decided to take on a second career as a driver. Drove between a little small town in Virginia, Chase City, Virginia, to Richmond every day and came back. The story goes, nobody today is alive that can collaborate or even question it. But when he went to double his fleet, to go from 1 truck to 2 trucks, went to the banker to borrow money, like I'm sure a lot of folks on this call do. And the banker told him, "Mr. Estes, you need to decide whether you're going to be a trucker or a farmer." And the story goes that he flipped a coin. And thankful for me today and the 20,000 people that work at Estes, it came up heads, and it was trucking. So little story. Again, my granddad ran Estes until about the year I was born in 1952. Suffered a pretty major heart attack. I don't know the people on this at this conference bear the pressures of that day-to-day trucking. Trucking is something that gets in your blood and you live it. It's a full-time job, as my granddad would say. It's 24/7, 365 days. So again, a pressure job. He had a heart attack in 1952. Doctor told him he needed to get away from trucking, go back to farming, and he did. Lived another 19 years, and my dad took over. He was a 31-year-old with only management experience he'd ever had was he was a master sergeant in World War II and led his troops on to D-Day at Omaha Beach. And so my dad took over in 52 and until 1983 ran Estes, and then I guess I was third in line and came along, and my son is 4th generation. So we're excited to be here. You hear about a lot of smaller family companies that don't make it past the 2nd and 3rd generation. We feel very lucky to have done it.
It's a wonderful story, and I appreciate you sharing that, because there is so much family heritage in the world of transportation, the world of trucking, and cutting across truckload, what you guys have specialized in and have grown so immensely. One thing I kind of want to talk about in this transition, Rob, you and I were talking about it a little bit earlier. As we look, and you talked about deregulation, when it was a regulated industry, and Estes was started and went from your grandfather to your father and then to you, and was growing. But then deregulation hits, and I think somewhere when the rankings were being done on the top 100 carriers back in 1980, I think only 5 of them are around today. Estes is one of them. How did you guys do it? How has Estes not only survived, but at billions of dollars of revenue, have you turned it into the largest privately held transportation company in North America?
George, a lot of good people. My dad and my granddad, people loved to work for them. And again, the platform that when I joined the company in 1975, and then again through today, we have we call it the Estes culture. I'm not sure if that's you find it in an encyclopedia, but we work hard to make. We're a family company. We work hard for the 20,000 folks, and probably the additional 30,000 of spouses and dependents to be family. This last year has been tough with COVID. I just got back from my first actual terminal tour, really seeing our people out in the field just last week, and I miss that. When you're a family, you need to go out and see your family. You need to be looking out for your folks. I think our people realize, and I hope they do, and we certainly talk about it a lot. We're a privately held company, so we're not a public company. We don't have to worry about quarterly results, so we're not pushing the envelope and making changes just to make ourselves look better on Wall Street. My focus and our focus is always on the long term, and again, public company again has to be focused on what Wall Street wants. We're focused on what again is best for Estes Express Lines, but also best for our people. During COVID, where we saw other companies cut benefits and maybe even reduce pay, we did none of those. We doubled down on our people. We actually offered up to $25 million in interest-free loans to our folks, knowing that COVID, what we anticipated, and it did prove out, was going to be a pretty devastating thing to people, both on an emotional level and on a financial level.
So as you invested in your people and we see the light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully it's not an oncoming train, but the light at the end of the tunnel is post-COVID, and looking at today and the market today, I'm going to take an educated guess and say that the Estes business is really strong today. And based on that, how you invested in your folks and continue to serve your customers. How is business today, and how are you looking going forward on maintaining that momentum that you've got?
George, it is really, really strong. In my 46 years, I have never seen a situation for this prolonged of time, at least for the last 9 to 10 months. The demand for air capacity being so much stronger than the air ability and air competition to supply that capacity. Everything I read, certainly with the amount of money that's going to be pumped into the economy with the quote-unquote infrastructure bill and the pent-up demand of people that have been, in COVID lockdown for a year, wanting to get out. I see the demand at least continuing the rest of this year, and possibly, again, you made that educated guess. I'd love to hear your comments, but I think into the first half of 2022.
I appreciate that. So we talk a lot about this, whether it be in truckload, less than truckload, that with this market being, as you described, near 46 years and in mine nearly that long, we haven't seen it this way. Are you seeing your customers, you seeing your shippers listening more to having that long-term relationship and trying to have it be so that downstream there'll be a that relationship that will last, or are we making hay now, so that when downstream it occurs? And again, you guys being privately held, have that opportunity to do things that you don't have to, be, talking to Wall Street every quarter and giving guidance. So do you see shippers acting differently now, or do you expect when that worm turns that we'll go back to how things have always been?
Oh, quite the question. George, yes, I'm seeing customers, talking to them, they want themselves to be the customer of choice. I hear that more and more as I talk to various customers. What can we do? And again, a different conversation than we were having back in 2008, 2009. But how can we be your customer of choice so that limited capacity that you have can be supplied to us to help us move our goods? I had one customer who made the comment that he did not want to take a call coming from Estes because it seemed like every time we called, we were asking for a rate increase. So I assured him that was not the case, that we were trying to come to the table with opportunities and synergies that could help both of us. But we're certainly seeing a different customer than we saw in, again, like I said, in 08 and 09.
So one of the things I really wanted to focus in on, you've got so many employees, so many folks that are driving those Estes pieces of equipment. We try very hard at FreightWaves to make sure that we say thank you to those essential drivers, the workers that were having to work from home, not able to go into those terminals as you may have wanted to, or you're not able to make those terminal visits. Do you feel like during the pandemic that the appreciation necessary, have we said thank you enough? I know internally the Estes culture lets them know that, but are we as an industry understanding better now just how critical the drivers are that are behind the wheel of those Estes trucks?
I think so. We always work hard to tell our people how important they are, and doubly so over the last year. Because, like you said, a lot of jobs could go virtual. You cannot deliver freight virtually. I think that's a proven fact. Air drivers are heroes. They were put in harm's way. Again, you were seeing on the nightly news or the newspaper the number of deaths from COVID. And we ask our folks to go out and make deliveries. Again, our road drivers that run at night, we're in the truck most of the time, but they had interfaces with our people at our terminals. And then our pickup and delivery drivers were, seeing multiple customers every day. And so we asked them to do their job, to keep America moving, and they did. And I don't think I could be more proud of our people. I think the American public, when they saw how critical the supply chain was, and when they, very early on in COVID, went to the shopping center, to the grocery store, and the whole row of toilet paper was out, I think they hopefully got an appreciation that how important truckers are. Truckers move America. And so, I think it was a good thing. I think a much needed thing. And I think the the vision of a trucker has moved up a couple of notches in the last year.
Boy, your lips to God's ears. We certainly share that sentiment at FreightWaves, and try so hard to make sure that the drivers and the essential workers inside of an Estes are recognized for keeping the country moving as much as we were able to. So I'm gonna need to bring this one home here in just a little bit, but I wanted to ask. I won't ask you to look in your crystal ball, anything beyond what I've already done, but I'm intrigued by it because, you know, you're a trucker, you're in transportation, and you see all of the technology that's coming our way that's, you know, going to change the way that business is done. And you've heard that for a lot of years. Some things have really changed how things have worked and others haven't. What do you see that's coming by your desk now? I'm sure which a lot of things must come by that desk. What are you seeing that you think will be the impactful? I mean, we see, you know, electric vehicles, the EVs. We see, you know, all of the autonomous conversations. Those or others? What do you really think in 3, 5, 10 years will be something that has made a mark, that is doing something in our industry that may not be, you know, so done in that same way today?
A few things. Certainly, the pace of technology is changing faster and faster. A cycle that used to be 10 years got reduced to 5 years, and now it's 2 years. You know, you think of what drives a lot of business today, and you know, there are a lot of apps. I know that you represent. You know, Trucker Tool is one that I know specifically about. You know, that works on the smartphone. And when you think about a company like Estes, again, their drivers use smartphones to do various things, but we still have our mainframe that was developed in 1984 and is still clicking, but it takes a whole lot of kicking to make changes in it, where the pace of change, when you have I guess a more dynamic, I'm trying to think of a good word for the newer technologies that the smartphone can bring. A company like Estes that really, to do our, you know, $4 billion in revenue a year, we have to have a mainframe. We can't operate everything off of a smartphone. The companies that hopefully are on this call, you know, have the opportunity to probably spend less as a percentage of revenue on IT than we do as a company. We've spent about 2.5% of revenue on our IT budget. And again, when you think of the things that are available, you know, with the smartphone and some of the new technologies, you know, it can certainly drive down cost. A few of the things that when you called me and asked me to talk, you know, I love to talk trucking. My dad had a saying that if you had an employee that was not holding a steering wheel or driving a tow motor, they were dead weight. And I think one thing that any organization should be constantly looking at is their overhead. You know, how do you do with not fewer people, but how can you grow and not have to add people? I think that's the best way to look at it. And I think technology has to be the way. In my time in trucking, I mean, when I was first starting, we had 40-foot trailers and went to 45-foot, then to 48, then to 53. But we really haven't had any substantial productivity improvements in 25 years. In fact, I think with palletization of freight, we've even actually gone down productivity-wise. So we have to make it up in productivity. And again, I look at technology and certainly the smartphone and its derivatives. I think that's something that this group should really pay attention to. The other thing, again, I'm an accountant by training. Never worked for an accounting firm. My dad was pretty sure that I needed to go work here directly out of college. But I don't say fanatical, but but work hard to make sure that I know my cost. I mentioned my grandfather earlier on in the conversation. He, if at the end of the day he had more money in his left pocket where he put his receipts than he paid out in his right pocket, he thought he was doing good. And I would say, and again, I'm not making a broad statement, but it's very important as a small business person to really know your actual cost and to be conservative with those. If you, again, aren't preparing for that engine going down or a mishap, a lot of times a profitable business can turn negative. So I would just encourage anybody that's a smaller operator just to make sure that they have a good handle on their cost. Certainly hiring good people today is critical. My generation is a lot different from millennials of today, and maybe a little bit different work ethic and maybe a little bit not as excited about driving a truck. And we just have to make what we provide at companies attractive to the people of America. And so
that is so incredibly well said. I do have to park the truck. I tend to say land the plane, but I got to park the truck. Sadly, they're giving me the hook here. What great counsel for the small fleet operators to be thinking about. And I will think about your grandfather's ledger system, in one pocket and the other pocket. I've got both sides of the ledger going there, and that's a great way to be thinking about it. And that just is going to continue. So always being knowledgeable
you really have to be careful. Again, if I was running a small business, I would make sure that I drive my wife's hand-me-down 2015 car, so I want to make sure that all the costs that I have are accurately reflected, so I can price my business to make a profit. If I underestimate my expenses or overestimate my ability to handle revenue and bet on the next load to come, it's challenging. So, good luck.
Rob Estes. Rob's the president of Estes Express Lines. Rob, industry icon, LTL icon, $4 billion worth of revenue, multi-generational. The number of highlights are so significant. Thank you for doing this. Really, the folks at FreightWaves and everybody in the virtual summit appreciate your time today. Thanks for doing this.
Well, I appreciate FreightWaves. Y'all provide a great service. You provide information, which is key, and just appreciate what you do for the industry to make it better every day.
There's no better example than what we just saw from one truck. Thankfully, that coin flip went the right way, and it ended up becoming a $4 billion operation in the world of trucking. So thanks to Rob Estes. Enjoy the rest of the Small Fleet and Owner-Operator Summit coming your way from FreightWaves. Thanks much. Have a great day.